Upgrades.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for another episode of True Detective Night Country. This is episode 5. This is literally the second to the last episode. We only got one more episode left. I think we only got 6 episodes, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we're about to do the daggone thing. I have Vanessa back. We're about to talk about episode 5. It was another banger. Man, that's rough. that one, the way
This
that
one
one
was a
ended was rough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's go ahead and kind of dissect it because we got a lot of good foundational answers to what's really going on with the mines, the murders, and at the same time also what happened with the Wheeler case in the back. But I
Mm-hmm.
guess going back to the beginning of the episode, we literally see this vivid imagery of like a burning skull. We don't really know what it is, and then eventually find out this is, Navarro's sister being cremated and her collecting her ashes. And then they kind of transition to like them trying to figure out what they need to do next. Now, I do want to bring this up because we talked about it just a second ago, but they don't necessarily resolve what happened to Navarro when they were going, and Navarro was kind of like met with this dream or vision or whatnot, and her ears are bleeding. Like, we just don't know what's really going on. But the interesting thing is that when Danvers was talking about, like, remember the people that were frozen solid, their ears were bleeding,
Mm-hmm.
bleeding from their ears. I thought that was a really interesting catch. But I think that they've got to resolve it, right? They have to bring this up because there's so much unanswered stuff about
Yeah.
this. Do you think that they
Mm-hmm.
will, or what do you think?
I think that they will. I think that we're starting to see some of the strain of the show fitting so much into 6 episodes because some stuff is inevitably gonna drop off or like we're
Yeah.
not it's either gonna be mentioned in passing. Um, I hope that I assume that they'll talk about it in this the last episode as they're about to go off and do something with just them two. So maybe they will bring it up and talk about it. But the way they like kind of went from that to like her just getting thrown into situation to situation to situation, I was just like, oh my God, can we stop and breathe for a second? Like she we
Right.
haven't even processed what last happened to her. So I
Right.
assume that they'll bring it up, but they definitely did in this episode.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just so much of the supernatural aspect that this episode gave us all the foundation to understand the why, like what brought
Mm-hmm.
on the supernatural aspects. But I
Mm-hmm.
guess that's what we're gonna get the last episode. It would be better, I think, if this had 2 more episodes left as opposed to maybe just one.
I
I think it
agree.
would allow a little bit more breathing room. But I
Mm-hmm.
digress. Let's go ahead and kind of get into it. So I think that Danvers got a call randomly for her superior, basically kind of saying like, "Hey, I need you to go and come down to the mine area and kind of have a conversation about how we want to handle the case with these dead bodies and what we can kind of discovered." And
Mm-hmm.
they basically try to sweep it under the rug to say that it was a avalanche, or what did they say? It was like a
Yeah, it was like it was like a sudden avalanche, basically. That it just was like they were frozen to death, which was it's just obvious BS.
they were immediately frozen to death, and in that kind of state that they can hallucinate and their eardrums burst because of the sound and the noise from all that, and it really just didn't make any sense at all.
Hmm.
But Danvers basically had them dead to rights because she was like, what about this, what about this, what about this? And then the only thing he kind of brought up was like, Wheeler, like, we know what you did on
Hmm.
some other stuff, and no matter how much evidence she had, it didn't matter. And she ended up kind of bringing it back to Navarro, and Navarro's like, you cannot let this go
Right.
because now you know without a shadow of a doubt, and now you're gonna have to carry this with me. How do you like the process of how they kind of transition those, kind of giving us the foundation of what's really going on with the minds?
Yeah, I liked that they like made the connection that silver mining is funding the Salal Labs, which then we find out that they're getting fake, they're getting musty, like messed up or like forged or faked pollution emission
Pollution.
reports,
Yep.
which can obviously like the mines are these are the same mines that are getting protested, and so like people know that something's wrong. Their water is
Hmm.
being poisoned, and this company's paying the labs to be like, oh, nothing's wrong. These people are crazy. So like we already know that there's a conspiracy and a cover up, which we've already said is what's been going on in this town. So that is something I was like, oh, I already knew. And then this shady lady's like, keep it under wraps. And I'm like, I just know that Annie got too close and something happened. Something
Yep.
went on. It's with clear without a doubt now that the two cases are intricately linked, and it's more than likely just it's not even two cases, it's one big long case, and it seems to just go back right up back to silver minings. They did something. I
Hmm.
think they either unlocked or unearthed something, poisoned the water, did something, and now they're trying to cover up all the little holes that they made. Yeah.
Yeah. And when did Annie die? Was how long ago was Annie
I think it was
died?
6 years ago. I believe it was 6 years ago.
That's
Something
freaking
like that.
nuts. That means
Mhm.
that this has been going on for 6 years or more.
Mhm.
Um, and it would make sense why Annie would know because she's probably seen a lot of like issues with like people, trying to have children, and all of a sudden like these kids are dying. So that's probably why she was so connected to it. It's just interesting because now what that does is it eves more evidence that there's blood on everyone
Mhm.
because the miners are doing their thing, but they're paying the researchers off to let all this go.
Mhm.
And then anybody that's connected to kind of cover the stuff up is also like not without reproach. So this is actually
Mhm.
really interesting because now we got to kind of talk about what we know about hmm, what's the guy's name? The engineer. What was his name? God,
Heiss. I
it's
think his name
Heiss.
was Heiss. Yeah. Otto Heiss. Yeah.
So Otto basically was like, "Look, this is where it is. This is what night country actually is, and it is basically a cavern in between. And the only way to be able to get there, it has to be pointed out. But I'm not doing that. I need some hero.
Mm.
Like you got to kind of meet me halfway and make it work." But I think who was it? Was it Navarro that found out the other detail about how to get under there from Rose? I forget who told her.
Right. Because it was, oh, remember we were like speculating on the spiral stone, and we were like, oh my God, he stole it,
Right,
blah, blah, blah. And it just ends up like,
right. Her
it just
boyfriend. That's
ended
right.
up, yeah, the boyfriend like was just like found some dude who was like, oh, I know something about this. So we find a little bit more about the spiral. The spiral is actually a symbol that
Mhm.
represents the hidden underwater ice caves. So if they basically mark them so that people know where they are at,
Mhm.
so they don't get trapped and fall underneath and trap and drown or like die or whatever. So the spiral actually does mean something. It's not like just like a witchcraft or whatever. It actually is a symbol that probably some of the old tribes or tribes that were living there use, and they've been passed down for but it's something you use to avoid. So I find it interesting that Annie was dreaming about it, and then
Mhm.
she got tattooed, and then she stopped dreaming about it, and then Clark saw it and was fascinated with it, and then it's just all these other little things about so that means, so what those little things are called are night country. That's where the name of the show comes from. Those little
Mhm.
like underwater ice caves. So now we even realize that there's a town, Ennis, and there's literally another town underneath the town.
Me
It's just
too.
like interconnected ice caves. Who's down there? Clearly, apparently, Clark is down there, according to the heroin addict. So, what is down there? Like, did the miner is silver mining doing something in those ice caves? Did they unleash something? Are they holding something down there? Are there zombies? I don't know.
Yeah, because now that it must mean even like Annie, it's the girl that name is Annie, right?
Annika,
Yeah, she was drawn to the caves. That's why she was down there.
yeah.
She was
Mm-hmm.
literally drawn to it, even with the spiral. Now, the thing that I kind of question is why the hunters saw the symbol. They could have just said, "Oh, well, this is what this is about."
Mm-hmm.
That leads me to believe that it's not just about the underground caves. They absolutely know something because they could have just said it. They could have openly
Yeah.
just said exactly what it was, but instead they kind of kept it under wraps. Now, man, this is the hard part because we're threading so many different things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Pryor's dad.
Hank.
Mm, mm, mm. So Hank
Hank's a piece of shit. I called it. Didn't I not call it for the beginning?
is this the same episode where he was playing the guitar?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in the
A lot
beginning of the
happened in this
episode,
episode. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. We he was playing the guitar, because he was kind of like feeling a certain kind of way because we know from prior that he had a really good singing voice and he just stopped all of a sudden. We didn't know really why. And then Pryor had gotten kicked out from his boo, and so he
Mm-hmm.
wanted to go and stay with his dad. And he decided to stay with his dad, and it seemed like he didn't have any options, but he also wanted to kind of be there for his dad to kind of comfort him. Lo and
Mm-hmm.
behold, we find out that his dad is working with the person that is over the mines and basically outright says, like, yeah, I need you to take care of this. Danvers is getting too close to all this. Like, she's
Mm-hmm.
off the case, but she's not gonna stop. And I need you
Mm-hmm.
to kind of remove this other part of the equation. Now,
Mm-hmm.
when when they were having that conversation in the car, he kind of led on that like this is the second time. And he was like, you never paid me back for the first time. So it's like, wait, what? Like, I was supposed to be the supervising senior officer. I never got that. And then she went back and said, well, I never knew Danvers was going to be this, but this is your time. Like, I need you to take care of this
Mm-hmm.
for me. And he was like, I'm not going to kill anybody. I'm not a killer. And lo and
Why did you tell
behold,
me that? Mm-hmm.
you called it, Vanessa. Like, you were like, he did it. He freaking did it. He covered it up.
Listen, you just couldn't tell by his face. He's a shady dude. That man is a shady person. I knew he had something to do with it. He just seemed like a corrupt cop. And then we'll get into the full scene, but when he literally out loud said that he moved her body, like Annie's body, I was like, I knew it. He's a shady cop. And I bet you all of his buddies that he let muck up crime scenes or whatever helped him.
Yeah, yeah.
He's a piece of
No,
shit.
it's pretty bad. And
Yeah.
so once we kind of get that understanding in the car, then it goes to how far is he going to take this? What is he going to do? Because the only way for him to be able to stop it is he's going to kind of have to figure out where the engineer is. And the only way to
Mm-hmm.
figure out where the engineer is, he's going to have to tell Danvers. And lo and behold, that's what he does. Like he tells her everywhere she goes to the point that Danvers and Pryor had like a real conversation. Pryor kind of she brought Pryor into her office and was like, "Look, we need to kind of hash this out because you've been asking all these questions, and now because you asking so many questions, people have heard it, and your
Mm-hmm.
dad is the dirty one. He got into your
Mm-hmm.
computer and he didn't want to believe it, and then she was like, "No, I want you to go ahead and ask me these questions." I thought that was so interesting of a scene because he he really did unpack all of it. Now, did you get any other details from that? Because one of the things that he identified was one, the murder, the person that supposedly hit her was left-handed, and then
Mm-hmm.
he come to find out somebody flipped all the pictures the completely opposite way, and then on top of that, he kind of asked her straight out, like, "Did you make this look like a suicide?"
Mm-hmm.
And she basically identified it. Yeah, she didn't absolutely outright say it, but you said something that I thought was really interesting when we were watching this. You was like, at least she was honest about it. Like
Mhm.
she made it completely plain. She let him figure it out, and she let him take what he will with it. And then it
Mhm.
turns to a transitional scene where the dad was not listening in, but he kind of came right in. He was like, probably was like, "Don't touch me." Like,
Mhm.
you use me just like she uses me all the time. But at least she was
But
honest
at least
about
she's
it up
honest
front.
about it. Yep.
Right.
Mhm.
So, kind of, what were some of the things you kind of picked up from that whole Wheeler situation? And do you think, because I have another theory now, because initially I was like, okay, Danvers was the one that shot first because Navarro said something. But the way that Navarro kind of just is covering all this up so easily, I don't know. What do you think happened in that scenario? I don't know if we'll ever get it, but I'm curious your.
Yeah, I think Danvers still killed him because of the way she's stressing out about it. But
Mm,
maybe it was Navarro and she just truly doesn't care because that's what happens to pieces of shit like that. Like, I don't know. I Maybe it's not important like who actually pulled the trigger because clearly they both
they both are, yeah.
are responsible. Um, but I find it interesting because she holds way more guilt over it, I feel like, than Navarro does, or like
Yeah.
way more angst over it. And yeah, she let him figure it out. Like obviously, like we don't actually see him figure it out. We just know that she told him the story, and then fast forward this happened. So we don't actually know that he's been trying to figure it out on his own. Which I think is another miss that we are missing from this very short season. As it would have been nice to see him doing a little bit of investigating, like, oh, I'm curious about this, even while he's at home and he's supposed to be in bed with his wife, and he's like
Mhm.
investigating an old case that has nothing to do with him because he wants to learn more about his boss. Like that would have been really like something like that would have been cool to see because it just reaffirms like his obsession, his like need to like be Danvers is as important to Danvers as he is to her or as she is to him.
Yeah.
But I think that moment really it couldn't have come at a better time because it really like solidified their relationship. It really like showed him like that she could trust like she trusts him now. Like that's
Yeah.
true trust because like for a while that was just her and Navarro's thing. And now her, Navarro, and Pryor now have a thing. They can protect
Yeah.
each other. Because for so long it was just Navarro and Danvers and it basically threw them up. I mean it drew them apart. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that throughout the season, like he's been asking, like, what happened with you and Navarro? What happened with this case? What happened? He's left certain breadcrumbs, but every single time Danvers, like she always does, she avoids the question and
Mm-hmm.
throws insults or throws misdirection by having him do another assignment. So, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's her MO. I mean, that's her MO
Yeah.
with everybody except for Navarro, because Navarro ain't gonna take nothing from anybody. Um,
Right.
but Navarro had a surprising situation as well, because she was out on the water and
Mm-hmm.
she was working with Rose to go and spread her sister's ashes into the water, into the ocean, and all of a sudden she was back in this place, and I they keep going back here, and I don't know
Mm-hmm.
where it is. I don't know
It
if we
looks
kind
like
of
the site
placed
of the
it.
accident. It looks like a site of an accident. Because I think it
Hmm.
was the same because it's a car tipped over, and then sometimes she sees Danvers' son. I think she was there at the site of the accident. I'm assuming with the last episode we're going to get a full flashback, or they'll talk about it. Um, but something traumatic happened to her. Maybe she lost her mom then too. I don't know, but it's something happened, and she keeps going back to that place, and then
Yeah,
she like drifted off, right? Like
yeah, she did exactly what her sister did. She was going out to the ocean. She
that
was
siren
literally
sound.
right,
That's siren. We did talk about that. The dude, the engineer, he talked about his
right.
project that it's the same similar thing that we keep hearing and seeing from these people. They keep hearing something or thinking they see or hear something, and then they're walking off into the cold or something. Like the engineer was talking about a previous project that happened, and he said he went to, it hurt, other people in his
30
group
years
heard
ago.
something. Yeah,
Right.
they heard something, and he went to go see what they heard, but it stopped. So I thought that was interesting. What are they
Was
hearing? What is this? And
right.
it
And I'm
sounds like
trying.
it's pointing to some, yeah, like maybe a frequency or something that's affecting people.
Yeah, because I'm trying to figure out, like, I mean, I'm trying to think outside the like outside of the supernatural, what happened
Mhm.
years ago. Um, Maybe that was when the corporation started. Maybe that was when the mining
True.
began.
That's true.
Because I don't know how long this has been going on. Because it alludes that it's not just been 6 years. It seems like it's been a lot longer than that, and
Mhm.
the damage has probably been, so bad that people just couldn't do anything about it. But yeah, no, that was a really great tidbit. I forgot all about that. Let's see what else we got. So much, and it's also we went back to back from last episode to this one. I'm trying not to make sure.
The protests of little Annie, or not Annie.
Oh, that
Actually,
was in
no,
the beginning
Navarro
of the
sees.
episode.
Yeah, Navarro sees in a vision of Annie, and that's also where we see protesters and the cops kind of clashing. And Leah sees her girlfriend run away from her when the chips fell. She was nowhere to be found. And then, as a little lesson to her, Dan's was like, book her. So she was in jail for like this entire episode, basically until Navarro pulled her out afterwards.
Look,
And then
Danvers' daughter. The moment she put that little paint on her lips, I was like, bruh, I don't know
she
if
ain't
she
about
about
that
that
life.
life. She right, right.
Literally, she
She
was not about
won't.
that life. She was
She
not about that
about
life. I knew she wouldn't be, but I was like, you know what, whatever. She had to learn the hard way.
it.
Um, but I don't know what else. I think that was like those are like the big, besides the very big moment we'll talk about at the end of the
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah, no, that's good enough because we can unpack some of that because,
Hmm.
Danvers' daughter, like we talked about last episode, like she doesn't feel connected to her mother.
Hmm.
And her mother can't be there for her emotionally in any capacity at all. Like it's interesting. That's such an interesting paradigm shift because we're gonna talk
Hmm.
about how this ended. But she
Hmm.
did have a touching moment with her in the bathroom. We'll talk about that in a second. But with
Yeah.
that, when she was in the moment and like when everything started kind of being a riot, like she was about to get beamed in the head. Like I think that cop would have not stopped, like straight up.
No, he was ready because he kept hitting her. I was like, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if Navarro hadn't have jumped in, it would have been a whole other situation. But Navarro was bucked. Like she was ready to. I don't.
Hmm.
I don't even know what came of that. Like did she get suspended from that? Like I don't know.
No, the other guy got suspended, apparently.
Like
That's what
do you think?
Danvers
Do you,
said.
do you think that was because Danvers did that, or you think
I
because
have to assume they were like, she's probably she's not directly over the ATF or AP, whatever they are, the
mm,
troopers, but I'm sure she was like, that man needs to be suspended. You don't hit the sheriff's or the chief of police's kid and not
daughter?
hit the
Right?
minors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nah, you're done. You're done.
Cooked.
But the fact is that that also solidifies like Navarro and Danvers' relationship. Like, I
Hmm.
mean, she's gonna protect Danvers and anyone connected to her because I think she really loves Danvers.
Yeah.
Like they clash so much, but she
They've been through
really
a lot.
truly, yeah, yeah, they really
Mhm.
do. Um, but yeah, no, there's another touching moment where she kind of goes to, oh my god, I can't believe she went to Pryor's house. his wife was looking at them, was like, "Yo, you better get up out
And
my
six could
face."
kill,
Um,
right?
but she got to the bathroom, was talking to her, and was trying to ask and kind of begging her to kind of come home for New Year's. And dang, this show is gonna end on New Year's. This is so weird.
I was just
We watch one more episode, it's gonna end on New Year's. Um anyway, but she ended up saying, the daughter is like, like I still love you. Like I still
Mhm.
haven't given up on you. And I was like, yo, that's real. Like her daughter
Mhm.
has got so much grace for her because
Right.
honestly, everything that she's done, I mean, she had her daughter in jail. Like to prove a point.
Right.
Now granted, her daughter don't look at consequences of actions. Like what she's doing, I get it. Like, being an
Especially because
activist
you
and
know,
doing like, but
yeah.
you're putting yourself in danger and you're not doing it the right kind of way. And so I
I
get
think
the
she's
lesson
doing it
standpoint.
But I think she's doing certain things. Like even activists aren't like. Did you see? Notice that the rest of the activists weren't throwing stuff at the cops or like some
Right.
of them were getting roughed up. But like I feel like she does things extra because she knows she can get away with it because her mom is a cop.
Yep.
It's the chief,
Yeah.
not just a cop, a chief of police. So like she can get away with things like spray painting buildings and getting caught, and like throwing things at cops and getting caught, and like she'll be fine because no one's gonna touch her realistically,
Yeah.
except for that one guy, and then he got suspended. So that's what happens when you hit the chief of police's daughter.
But yeah, her boot thing walked out on her, and
Hmm.
it is what it is after that. But yeah, let's go ahead and get to the crazy stuff. So, prior went and staying at Danvers, the back of her barn, and I was kind of like, could at least give him the keys to the house, and I didn't know where this was going because I knew that Danvers was in the house and she was trying to figure out stuff, and then all of a sudden, Pryor's dad shows up, and I
Walks
was
in.
like, "Yo, what you doing?" But what made it so bad is we didn't know whether or not the daughter was going to show up because Danvers literally
Hmm.
gave old man some heroin to shoot up
Hmm.
or smoke or snort, whatever he was doing. And I was like, please don't let the daughter show up. The last person I thought was going to show up was Pryor's dad. And when
Oh, I knew
he
he was gonna show up because he was following her. But I did think that the daughter was gonna show up. I thought it was gonna get way more tragic.
and I think it was just bold for him to just roll up in the because he didn't even he was kind of like, you know what, like I've got a warrant for this guy, like I need you to bring him out, like I know he's in here. He didn't even
Mm-mm.
care. He was like,
Mm-mm.
yo, where is he at? And then was like, what are you doing? And the
Mhm.
moment that first shot went off and shot the engineer, I was like, oh, this is the point of no return. Like,
Mhm.
I honestly think he would have had to have shot Danvers
Oh
because there's
yeah.
no way she wouldn't have snitched. There's no way. She's by the book.
Mhm.
I mean, she's crazy, but she's by the book.
She's not really by the book, but she would have definitely like. I think he probably would have tried to blackmail her with the Wheeler thing, but I think ultimately he wanted her job. So if there was no way she would have been able to stay alive. She was very lucky that his son was there. He ended up showing up.
Yeah. So the son showed up, and he didn't. I knew it as soon as the first round went off, like he was gonna go
Mhm.
because he was trying to be protective of his mother figure. What he didn't expect to see his dad pointing a gun right at her, and it was just like, where do we go from here? How did we get here? How did you just put two bullets into this man, and now your
Mhm.
son is pointing a gun right at your face because he doesn't know what to do? And the crazy thing about Danvers in that situation, she kept on saying, like, think about it. Like,
Mhm.
just really think about it. And I don't know, I'm curious your perspective. Do you think that she was saying that to say, like, think about what's really happening or think about not shooting your dad? Because I don't think Danvers necessarily wanted him to kill his dad. But I also think that she wanted to make sure that he didn't put himself in a situation to follow along with what his dad was doing. Um,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
good.
No, no, I think it's the first one. I think she was like, "Don't let don't let him manipulate you because I know he can. Think about it." Like because she's been training him to this day. Like, don't you're asking the wrong questions. Ask the right one. Like, so she's probably
Mhm.
telling him and like ask the right questions in your head. What do you think? What's the likelihood of what's happening? Do you think your dad honestly came here to pick up some dude on Christmas Eve, like New Year's
Right.
Eve? Like, come on. And so I don't think she expected him to shoot him because I don't think she expected the dad to be stupid enough to point the gun at her. But it felt like in that moment he did it. He did it to force his son's hand because
He did.
he made that confession at the end. But I'm like, okay, he was expected. He knew how this was going to go down.
Yeah.
So I don't think Danvers knew. I don't think she expected what was going to happen. But I think his
Yeah.
dad knew at the very end what was going to happen, which is why he did that.
Yeah. It was just rough, man, because the
It
moment
was
that he
sad.
made the confession, it was kind of like it goes back to when he was talking to the girl in the car. He was like, I'm not a killer. Then
Hmm.
he allowed himself to be a killer and he allowed himself to be an accessory to murder. and I guess it was just too much. It piled up on him, and I
Mhm.
think the other part of it, he already knew his son was mad at him
Mhm.
for getting the will information from the laptop, and it was kind of just like I need to tell you this and kind of just be put out of my misery kind of thing. And
Mhm.
that's such a selfish move because I get he's in pain and he wanted to be rid of it, but at the end of the day, you forced your son
To
basically
kill you.
to take you out,
Mhm.
and he's gonna have to live that trauma for the rest of his life. And the sad thing is because Danvers doesn't do well with death, and she also doesn't do good with trauma, she knows what this boy is feeling. And
Mhm.
she wants to protect him. Like she like I think the last scene with them was heartbreaking because I mean, shout out to Jodie Foster because the
I
tears
know.
in
It
her
was
eyes.
so painful. Oh, yeah, she got me with those.
Yeah.
It was
And
really good.
he was broken. Like the boy was so messed up. Like he was like, I need to go. I gotta go help. I gotta do this. And I was
Mhm.
like, I'm worried the son's gonna get himself killed now more than ever.
Maybe.
Um,
I
because
don't
I don't
know.
think he can live with what he did.
That's fair.
I
That's
don't think he
fair.
can sit there and look at his son in the face and realize what he's done. I just don't. And also, even if they do manage to cover all that up, I don't think he can hold on to that. I think he would turn
Right.
himself in, to be honest.
Yeah. I'm genuinely curious as to see how he will react to shooting his own father. Like what the fallout will be. Because right now they'll be in cleanup mode and whatever, but he's not, I mean, he's basically lost everything. He's lost his dad, his wife, his family's like estranged. Like he doesn't really have, he only has Danvers. So like if he loses Danvers, I don't know. I just feel bad for him because that was really sad. There was like a lot of sad moments in this episode. The like when she was spreading her sister's ashes and then like seeing Pryor's like face, I was like, damn. Like they both lost in the last couple of days, like lost family. That's really sad.
It's all
It's really
Danvers'
sad.
fault. Like
It's all
Danvers
Danvers'
just
fault.
spreads a
We
lot
can't
of
blame
death
her.
and
We can't
destruction.
blame this. We can't blame her for the sister, but yeah, she did try to help the sister out.
She did. She did. I
Damn it,
don't know.
Danvers.
Right. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna blame Danvers just because she's connected to these people that are just losing everything.
losing
Um,
everything.
but now, I mean, from the facts, we know that the mine are the ones that are
Mhm,
behind the poisoning. We know for a fact that they're covering everything up. They don't want everybody to figure out what they did with the whole Annie situation because they covered that up. So we know
mhm,
they were directly involved with her murder um, in the caverns. And the only thing we don't know is physically what is happening to everybody. That's the only
mm,
thing. That's the only unanswered part about this is that we know for a fact that Rose and and Navarro are seeing dead people. They're having visions. They're seeing stuff. But in addition to that, Danvers is having visions. She's seeing stuff. Um,
mhm,
we've witnessed certain people that are part of the research team that are showing signs of things that they can't explain that they're seeing. Um, and it ain't got nothing to do with Avalanche. So
right.
that's the only big mystery now is well, I'd say that back. It's two different mysteries. We haven't actually seen the car crash and what happened to her spouse slash her son. We
Mhm,
haven't seen Navarro, what happened to the mother exactly. And
mhm.
we don't know what is the supernatural element of it. That's a lot. In a
We don't
last
know a
episode, that's
lot.
a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a
There's a lot we
lot
don't
in
know.
one episode.
Mhm.
They got one episode to explain all this. Can they do it? can they give us
Probably
a
not.
touchdown? Are they gonna
Maybe.
fumble? I don't
We'll
know.
see. We'll
I
see.
don't, I don't know. I think it was everything. There's one thing we missed?
No, I think we got everything. I think.
Trying to think. It's hard doing this off of memory. See, that's why I'm glad I'm relying on your notes today. Um, oh, we did confirm that the intro is changing. They're adding certain pictures, and moments, and segments.
I feel like we need to rewatch. We need to watch another intro just to confirm because I feel like I noticed something, but I want to triple check for the next one. We'll see. I don't
Because
know.
I'm thinking back to the first episode, and that intro, only thing I remember was the polar bear and them driving. That's it. I don't remember seeing anything else going down the road.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like we're
Mm-hmm.
picking up the pieces of the puzzle as we're going along.
Mm-hmm. More pieces are coming.
Yeah. Man, this is one of the first True Detective seasons that I actually wish they had multiple seasons. It wasn't like an anthology.
Right? This is a
I would
good
actually
one.
like to know more outside of just this. But anyway, unless you could think of anything else, is that everything?
I don't. I think we got everything. There was a lot of random stuff. I think we covered it all.
Can't remember.
Okay. Spirals, ashes, things of that nature.
Oh man. Oh, do you have a theory on the supernatural? One last theory before we get to the last episode.
I think if I'm sticking with my original one, I think that the silver mining unearthed something in the underwater ice caves, or the hidden ice caves. I think they dug too deep or something, and then they built the lab to like study it, and then this thing either got unleashed or it leaked into the water, and now it's like messing with everyone, and or there's a vengeful spirit or something. I don't know. I still think there's something that they like unlocked in the water or in the ice, and it's affecting everyone. Yeah, that's my theory. What about you?
I really truly don't know because I keep going back to how Annie died. Like
Mhm,
like how her body was like shanked multiple different times. Like there's so many different ways she could have died. Like she could have
mhm,
died like something falling on her or like snap neck or something like that. But like I don't know. It's just something doesn't add up about how viciously she died in
mhm,
connection with how all these different men were scared to death, literally.
mhm.
And the one that did survive literally was scared to death all over again.
No,
Even
there's
the guy,
another spy. Remember Park? Yeah, he survived. Well, he's wandering
well,
around. He didn't technically survive because he never did experience it, but he's still saying like she's awake.
yeah, and that's the other thing. Everyone is saying that. Who was somebody said that in this episode? Who
Yeah,
was it in
that's
this
what
episode?
the engineer said that that's what Clark told him. He said he's in the night country. He said she's awake. He's trying. He basically made it sound like he was trying to escape from her or whoever this her is.
So do you think he set Annie up? Because he was the one that was closest to her, right? That was the boyfriend, right?
Yeah, maybe they were getting haunted before, and he.
Dang,
I
it
don't
may
know.
have started with him. Like he may have actually did the murder and he thought that he could get away with it, but it's been
That's what.
following him.
Could be. That's what I was originally thinking. That he killed her, and then she's been haunting her. Like that they buried her, but she woke up. How did she wake up?
Yeah.
Because they found her tongue. Like we still, their tongue was like in the lab.
Right. Like who would have placed the tongue in the lab?
I think it was already in the lab in a freezer.
Yeah. So I don't know. I do
Great
know that
thoughts
there's
for going to bed.
yeah,
Think about
there's
the
right,
tongue.
right. God. I do think that this is the first season that I think that there's actually some unexplained things supernaturally happening.
I agree.
I do
We'll
think that
see
they're gonna
though.
get that at the end of it.
We'll
If they
s-
kind of just resolve it, like, oh, this was everything, I'm gonna be annoyed by that. But
we'll see.
Yeah. So I personally rest this episode at an A plus. I actually really dug this episode. It was just it's hard watching these back to back. This is not a bingeable show. This is not a show you
Mm-mm.
go and watch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like it's way too much to digest. I think you need to kind of sit on it, watch the
Mm-hmm.
next week, and come back to it. But
I
what are your
agree.
final thoughts on this episode and rating?
I will give this one. I'll give this one a B plus. I thought it was another good episode, but I do think there was still something missing. Like there was a lot of jumping between this happened and now this happened and now this happened. Like I wish we would have seen more of like things being put into place. Like like we saw the son stealing stuff. Like I would have liked to see a scene of him like doing like there was just a lot of explaining rather than a lot of exposition rather than like finding things out naturally. It was just more like, oh, we have to tell you this because it has to move us into this place. So I felt like there was more of that strain. But it was still a really good episode, and the acting carries it, completely carries it. Because the
Yeah.
end in that last scene where they were just Jodie Foster's just looking at her surrogate son. I was just like, wow, that's some insane acting. Like it was haunting. So really, really good stuff there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll never forget Navarro giving Danvers that look after Navarro's like, yeah, screw Danvers. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, nah, this is a really good season. I just want more. And I don't know if they're gonna be
Mm-hmm.
able to wrap all this up
I
well.
know. That's what I'm worried about. We'll
Um
see. We'll
we'll see.
see.
It's time to go to bed. So I'm gonna let Vanessa plug it up.
Yeah, you can find me at Vanessa Shark. Stop laughing at me. You can find me at Vanessa Shark on everything. I write for multiverseofcolor.com. You can read my articles there. You can also check up on my updates at vanessashark.com. Yeah. Every time you make me laugh. Now I'm just laughing. I'm
We're gonna
tired.
go. y'all, y'all take care. Happy New Year. I think
Happy
when
New
you're
Year.
well, no, this it's
The-
literally gonna be a New Year when they're seeing this. When
Yeah,
we're
you're gonna see
doing
this in January. So it's New Year
this.
for us. Happy New Year.
Might be seeing this in February. All right, peace, you guys. Later.